Hey YouTube, this is Ticking Clock. Um, Decided I wanted to do a dialogue with my current findings of this geographical, I don't know, display of dominance by the religious class and the elitist banking class, and whoever else is involved with this. I don't know. It's sick. Um, But what is for sure is they've either hijacked some former global civilization that worshiped the sun, and they're copying it to display some sort of symbolic gesture that gives them power over us. Um, just the thought of something like this is just insane. But what we have here is the symbolic New World Order pyramid, or the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. We have the Eye of Horus, which is located in Amman, Jordan. And when we zoom in, what we see here is the display of a eagle or falcon that clearly represents Horus. It looks just like the hieroglyphic, and you can even see the body here. And what really started perking my interest after I discovered this was the fact that the Temple of Hercules is directly underneath it. And now, those of you who are familiar with mythicism or astrotheology, that was popularized by Zeitgeist, Hercules represents a half-man, half-god solar hero persona, similar to Jesus or Horus, or we have Perseus, or we have Orion, but the originator that we have evidence of is Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh is the original solar hero. He is Hercules is merely a copy. So is Orion. These are figures that have had traits stolen from the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is a very, very important artifact of history, yet goes unrecognized by most who never even have heard of it. They have us focus on Greek heroes when there's so much more. So here we have the eye of the pyramid. Mount Hermon, for those of you who are familiar. Baalbek is also here. This is a curious line here, that from Jerusalem to the Kaaba in Mecca, we have 666 nautical miles. That's not an accident. That is not an accident. Okay, so for our first line, Great Circle line, we follow it, and we have the pyramids of Giza, the Great Pyramid, the Oracle of Siwa, which was visited by, or said to have been visited by, Hercules, by Perseus, and then finally by Alexander the Great, who worshipped Hercules. He was obsessed with Hercules, and he may have gone on the same adventure Hercules went on also. When we analyze the pillars of Hercules, if we look at the fact that Hercules was merely a copy of Gilgamesh, who came from Ur and traveled west towards Lebanon, to the Great Cedars, to the twin mountains where the scorpions guarded them. Those are the true pillars of Hercules. Now, if you're telling the story of Atlantis, as Plato was recording, that lies to the east, okay? Not to the west. So what they've done is they have everyone looking for Atlantis out here. They have people saying, oh, well, it must have been in the Mediterranean. It couldn't have lied out in the Atlantic Ocean. But I like to actually look for the location according to what is recorded. And so I don't believe it is in the Mediterranean. And I don't believe it's in the Atlantic Ocean. I've been reading a book by Professor Auricio Santos, and he believes that Atlantis was actually within Indonesia. And we can see here on Google Earth how shallow the water here is in these locations. Now, if we're talking about the time scale Plato said, we're looking right at the time of the meltdown of the Ice Age. And during that meltdown, we saw displacement of crust due to melting of the ice caps. We had ice caps very far south, okay? And all that displacement of water is going to cause earthquakes. It's going to cause volcanic eruptions, and last but not least, flooding, which is recognized throughout history by all sorts of accounts of a great flood, okay? And when you look at this area, it was absolutely decimated by this tragedy. We have huge amounts of land that have been submerged, okay? And when we look at the fact that the accounts of Atlantis talk about elephants, it talks about fertile land and extremely rich resources and the ability to grow rice. We're talking about a tropical zone, and we're talking about an area such as this, an area which originated the island people. We look at the people, the people that have inhabited all of the islands of the Pacific. They are sea people. They have the ability to travel long distances, and are great candidates for the people of Atlantis, or Lemuria, which I believe are one and the same, which are two myths that are one and the same. Lemuria was created after the discoveries of archaeologists or linguists who just were looking at all the languages and saying something doesn't add up. There's a missing piece to the puzzle. There's a civilization that we are not seeing here. And they came up with the myth, which is in the book Riddle of the Pacific, which was created by a very studied, very highly thought of individual within the language community, who was president of, I want to say, New Zealand's education in language. Now, I wish I had his name. I'm sorry about that, but look it up. I know he wrote a book called Riddle of the Pacific. Now, if we look at the facts that, so as we're talking about language here, the Indus Valley currently has a language that has never been deciphered. It's the Indus Valley text. Now, if we look at these lines, they go through Mohenjo-Daro, okay? And what we have here is a connection, direct connection between Mohenjo-Daro and Easter Island. And back in the 1930s, there were linguists who were studying the direct connection between the two languages and how there's extremely strong similarities between the two. But what happened was, because there was no recorded evidence of a written language out in Easter Island, when the Dutch came, I believe, they maintained, or it may have been the Spanish, they said that this language was created because these people witnessed the language of their invaders and saw the power in it and wanted to copy it and created the Rango text, which is completely absurd. And we can see that if you analyze the similarities between the two and just the iconography of the two texts, you'll see the similarities and how it's impossible. And the main thing that people were like, well, this is absurd. It's halfway around the world. They can't be related. Well, here we have a direct link between Easter Island and Mohenjo-Daro, and the main aspects of this line have nothing even to do with that. We're looking mainly at the pyramids and the Nazca lines and Easter Island, and and then we just happen to have Mohenjo-Daro here. We happen to have Persepolis, Petra. This is amazing. Okay, so now when we look at our other line, it happens to go through Troy. Oh, we have the Bosnian pyramids here. We have Stonehenge. Okay, we have Boston. We have Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia. We have Greenwich, Connecticut. Greenwich, they love their bullshit. Georgia Guidestones are close, but then we have Teotihuacan in Mexico City. Okay. These locations were sacred. So then, once again, once we zoom out and we analyze this pyramid, what we see here is the pyramid, and it's cut by the prime meridian. Now when we look at this prime meridian, what it does is it directly intersects our pyramid and the Tropic of Cancer. This is directly connected to some solar observance. And when I started my research initially on this, I thought perhaps that this was some sort of former equator, tropic zone. And I thought, man, this could have been, there's this interesting documentary on the 77th parallel, how it goes through Washington, D.C., and I noticed how this parallel is taking place right at the widest point of the pyramid, and I did measurements, and I found that they were the same widths as our current tropic zones between those and the equator. And then I extended it out a perpendicular line, and we had some sort of central axis point here at a spiraled area of crust, and I was like, wow, could that have been a pole? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm starting to believe that this was not some sort of former axis point. Maybe at the origins of the Earth it could have been, I don't know. But when I analyze it, and you see this here, and you see the similar measurement here, almost identical measurement between that and the tropical zones, it has something to do with the solar, the sun hitting the Earth and the way it does it. And it's an observance to, I personally believe that this has to do with the ancient global cultures that existed that modern science refuses to acknowledge. And that when they say, oh, we don't know who built Stonehenge, we don't know who built the pyramids, You know, we don't know the Indus Valley language or where they went. Um, you know, I think there are people who do know. We don't know who the sea people were. You know, things like that. Where did these people come from? Well, they don't want to tell us where they came from. They came from here, potentially. The Aryans, invasion of India, they came from here. Okay? And that's the thing they don't want to admit. They don't want to admit the evolution of the zodiac developed here, came to India. Yeah, it's separated. And then we have a Western zodiac and an Eastern zodiac. They came from one and the same thing. They didn't evolve separately. These people are insane if they believe that. Okay. I mean, we have. I mean, look at this. They created Jerusalem, 666 miles. They created Kaaba from Jerusalem, 666 miles. I mean, that's just numerical symbolism. And they put that number 666 in all of our heads, and have us fear that number, and say it's Satan, and say, oh look, they built their sacred site 666 from blessed Israel. You know, great Israel, bow down before Israel. But when we look at this intersection point, this isn't by accident. This is not by accident. These are very important lines to them. And so when I was analyzing, and I thought these were the tropic zones, I created this line down the middle of the particular pyramid. And I thought perhaps this was an old equator. I didn't know. It happens to go through the 33rd parallel. Which is a whole other story. 33rd parallel, you got Phoenix, Arizona, you got Roswell, you got Mount Hermon, you got, I mean, it's just very strange. And you had the droppings of the atomic bombs, and you had, you know, the test site was on the 33rd parallel, and then the Nagasaki and Hiroshima were so close. You know, it's not an accident. But I was observing the what I thought to be the equator, and when you follow the line all the way through, it takes you to New Zealand. Okay, and it takes you right to Mount Hikurangi. In this area here, when the Earth is tilted properly, as such, this is the first area to receive light, the first land to receive light in the new solar year. So we see another strong importance of these lines. So when the Earth rotates, while we have other islands that are closer to the anti-meridian, this area here will hit and see sunlight first, due to the tilt of the Earth and its rotation as such. And this will see first sunlight. And so you have sunlight and continual sunlight through these. If you look, these are all conquered by the British. Australia, Indonesia, India. These are all have been conquered. And this is the empire that never sleeps, the empire of the sun. And we look at the shallow areas that were once land, and there's no doubt in my mind this was the heart of ancient civilization during the Ice Age. And we even have the Yonaguni Monument, which is a very famous monument that modern archaeology tries to play off as you know, a natural phenomenon. I just think that's hilarious. It's clearly a temple. So here we are. This is the information I've collected so far, and I'm going to continue my research. I've tried to show this to other people, and they have not been interested. And so I have to continue on doing this and continue on with my normal life, and it's not something that I necessarily want to do, but I find it extremely interesting, and I'm just trying to get someone else to carry this torch. I've found this, I just believe that it's worthy of continual research, and unfortunately I can't get someone else to jump on board and help me with this, because you know, this doesn't pay the bills, and I've got to work, and I don't have time to put in this, and it creates an obsession that disrupts your lifestyle. So I've got to you know, if any of you are interested in assisting in this research, let me know, and I can give you some more information that I've come across, or you know, if you could, help me out if you know any other additional facts behind this, that would be wonderful. All right, take care, guys.